Nicola Triscott, a cultural producer, curator, writer, and researcher, specializing in the intersections between art, science, technology, and society, in a way that makes me think of what Terry said yesterday of the indisciplinarity, or Chris this morning about the hybrid work realities we are in. Nicola is the founder and artistic director of Arts Catalyst and principal research fellow in interdisciplinary art and science at the University of Westminster. Arts Catalyst is one of the UK's most distinctive arts organisations, distinguished by ambitious artist commissions that engage with science, including notable projects by Thomas Saraceno, Ashok Sukumaran, Alexander Mir, Otwit Group, and Critical Art Ensemble. Nicola lectures and publishes internationally, including books on art and technology in the Arctic, and I think we'll hear a little bit about that, art and space and ecological art, and has a wonderful blog which I can recommend. I've scrolled through it and enjoyed it enormously, nicolatriscott.org. The floor is yours.
Thank you. So that's good, so I can skip the first part of my introduction. I'm really very happy, slightly surprised to be here, but really happy to be excited because I haven't been to Timisoara before. Thank you. Oh, that's better. I don't have a big voice at the best of times. And my voice is losing a little bit, so it's been suggested that I might have to resort to interpretive dance at some point. So yeah. The algorithms will be like this. I run Arts Catalyst, which is an independent non-profit organisation based in the UK that commissions transdisciplinary art and research. We've been going for 24 years, and in that time we've probably commissioned well over 170 artist projects and produced numerous exhibitions, events, performances, publications, and we collaborate with major art, science and academic organisations in the UK and internationally. So through working with artists, scientists, communities and interest groups, we produce projects and exhibitions that connect with other fields of knowledge, expanding artistic practice into domains that are more commonly associated with science and specialist research. So the illustrations in this talk are all drawn from Arts Catalyst's back catalogue of commissions. Sometimes they'll be relevant to what I'm saying, sometimes they won't be. Don't try to look too hard for connections. So yes, as Lars said, I also blog on the intersections of art, science, technology and society, and I've recently moved from an independent researcher into a university position as well. Arts Catalyst programme focuses on exploring themes through art that reflect the urgent issues of our time, including environmental change, energy, climate, governance, race and migration. We understand art as a unique laboratory in which we can experiment with tactics and strategies of questioning, making, imaginative cooperation, radical revisioning, aesthetics, subversion, disciplinary hacktivism and invention. We're passionate that art needs to be allied with other forms of inquiry, including science, to seek new knowledge and activate agency to improve our reality. As I said, I was slightly surprised to be invited to talk about my work in relation to algorithmic systems, but simply because I hadn't really thought about them in that way. But having had the chance to think about it a bit more, everything I do is really around systems and infrastructures, and there are really deep connections with my research and practice, which were probably more apparent to the organisers than to me. So obviously to mathematicians, algorithms are simply methods, a very precise list of steps for solving specific problems. And in the last century, the disciplines that kind of grew out of mathematics towards computer science took this concept and called it computability. As our modern computational cultures emerged, many artists became pretty excited about algorithms, and I think a whole range of algorithmic art forms emerged in the last century: computer graphics, animation, software art, media art, algorithmic computation, algorithmic net art. But it's really been in the last decade, I think, that the term algorithms has been appropriated to stand for something much broader and rather more amorphous, and as a way to think about this complex computational culture that's grown up about us and now embeds and shapes us, and which we shape too. Algorithms have become a shorthand for what social scientists used to call complex socio-technical systems, that are being implemented widely, usually by large corporations or governments, surveillance systems, financial trading systems, smart cities, smart motorways, medical diagnostic systems, numerous others, some of which we learned about this morning. And of course, it's frequently used to refer to the vast numbers of algorithms that have become part of many consumer-orientated social media, news and shopping sites. And today we're seeing an explosion of computational language translation services, facial recognition, photo categorization and tagging services, as well as a plethora of new devices that are embedded with sensors and software, the growing Internet of Things, where someone said to me the other day, perhaps the Internet of largely useless things. Alongside the excitement about the possibilities of the algorithmic are many expressions of concern about what our algorithmic culture means and where it's taking us. And we've been deep in the heart of those concerns, I think, this morning. So maybe what we're really concerned about when we invoke the algorithmic here is not the algorithm per se, but the insertion of procedure into human knowledge and social experience, and the delegation of what we once traditionally considered as the work of culture, the sorting and the classifying and the hierarchizing of people, places, objects and things, to computers, and then the potential for the elimination of human-scale decision-making within the systems that are vital to our lives. And this is an interactive artwork by Gina Czarnecki that I commissioned back in 2002, a long time ago, but still seems to have some great contemporary resonance. In one of Arts Capitalist's current research strands called Radical Ancestry, we're exploring how contemporary genetic science is reshaping our understanding of race and human migration. And one of the key areas we're looking at within this is the intensifying use of biometrics, including AI in surveillance, migration, and border control, and the emergence of genetic information within this, and the vast growing DNA databases that many people are paying to contribute to through commercial companies offering so-called DNA ancestry testing. So biometrics is a technology of identity, identifying you or verifying your identity. It's a highly reductionist idea of identity that relies on the individuality of our bodies. It's not really interested in who you are, the story of your life, your kin, what makes you you. It's just interested in what you are biologically. The Myanmar has recently started replacing its registration card with electronic ID cards for its people. And Myanmar currently recognises 3 categories of citizens, namely citizen, associate citizen, and naturalised citizen, as well as 135 legally recognised ethnic groups who are allowed citizenship. And as you'll probably know, the Rohingya has been stripped of their citizenship. Myanmar is an apartheid state, and biometrics have been used to administer this. So data such as citizens' fingerprints, eye scans, and photos were collected for the smart IDs. And in the UK, we're seeing the issuing of biometric cards to the children of the Windrush generation who've been caught up in our Prime Minister Theresa May's hostile environment for immigrants. So now genetics is making an appearance in biometrics. Kuwait made DNA testing mandatory, but then withdrew it. For all its citizens, it was supposed to be mandatory, but they withdrew that after a lot of protests. And certain US embassies around the world require DNA testing for particular visas to establish familial relationships. As we saw very clearly in the presentations this morning, so I won't go over it, what has become very clear in recent years is the risk of discrimination and hidden or not so hidden biases embedded in algorithmic systems, because these systems usually pretty accurately reflect the human biases in their training data, and then propagate these biases in a discriminatory way. I find that there's a great interest among artists, and particularly young artists, in non-representational art at the moment, often using some form of community inquiry or research to problematize a subject or a matter of concern. And in this mode of art, intertwined socio-technological assemblages are frequently encountered. These assemblages are terribly difficult for us to think about. Even scientists and social scientists struggle with how to inquire into them, but I think art is an extremely good discipline for thinking about the ways in which things come together. Artists are great synthesizers, hackers, connectors, visualizers, and storytellers, and so they're well positioned to engage with complex systems. I think for the rest of this lecture I'm going to focus primarily on the role of algorithmic systems in shaping our environment and our biosphere, and on how artists have appropriated simple algorithmic systems themselves in an attempt to increase citizen agency in the care of our environment, and thus to some extent bypass the large societal technological infrastructures that some feel constrain and control us, no matter how much improved efficiency they may bring with them. Algorithms are all around us. They're used in applications such as AI, machine learning, logistics, remote sensing, risk modeling, and as a result they're transforming the biosphere through their influence on the world's landscapes, oceans, air, and ecosystems. Algorithms underpin the global technological infrastructures that continuously extract and develop natural resources, such as minerals, food, fossil fuels, living marine resources. They facilitate global trade flows with commodities, conducting millisecond automatic trades with financial instruments for wheat, rice, soybeans, copper, and other minerals. They form the basis of almost all environmental monitoring technologies. As I've noted, they're also embedded in devices and services that profoundly affect our behaviour, what we buy, what we consume, how we travel, all with indirect but potentially very powerful effects on the biosphere. And then there's the environmental impact of the material and physical nature of our computational media systems themselves, the geological materiality of media systems, the massive energy guzzling data farms, the rare earth minerals that we use on our mobile phones, and the endless waste, all of which are making a significant contribution to the Anthropocene. In preparing this talk, I came across the Biosphere Code Manifesto, which is a set of principles for the development of algorithms that can help us to protect and strengthen our ecosystems and improve our creative capabilities to sustain human well-being in an uncertain future. I was really happy to find that it shares many of the values that I've been developing over the last couple of decades in relation to science and technology. We're probably reading the same books. The Biosphere Code Manifesto was developed in 2015 by a group of scholars, programmers, artists, entrepreneurs, and others. And these principles are applicable to anyone taking an active part in the algorithmic revolution. So the 7 principles are: with great algorithmic powers come great responsibilities. Algorithms should serve humanity and the biosphere at large. The benefits and risks of algorithms should be distributed fairly. Algorithms should be flexible, adaptive, and context-aware. Algorithms should help us to expect the unexpected. Algorithmic data collection should be open and meaningful, and algorithms should be inspiring, playful, and beautiful. These principles are idealistic, but I want to illustrate how some of them might be applied through a series of art-led projects on which I've worked over the last 8 years or so, that utilise artistic methods to inquire into complex social and environmental systems, and in a number of cases attempt to assist citizens to develop and express their human agency as stewards of their own environments. I'll start briefly with the last principle first. Algorithms should be inspiring, beautiful, and playful. In 2011, I curated an exhibition called Data Landscapes as part of a wider research program exploring the use of climate science data and computational modelling within visual arts contexts. Data Landscapes presented 2 artworks that utilised real-time data and algorithmic processes to create poetic mappings of global systems. The Southern Ocean Studies by Tom Corby, Gavin Bailey, and Jonathan Mackenzie reveals hidden complexity using climate model outputs of the Antarctic Southern Ocean. Currents circulating the Antarctic landmass are generated in real time and mapped against other environmental data sets. These produce flickering constellations of carbon circulation and wind direction. While it's tempting to see the swirling forms as representative of an Antarctic wilderness, the patterning is as much a product of human activities as natural ecologies. The Southern Ocean is a crucial component of the Earth's climate system, and the carbon saturation of the stretch of water caused by inaction on climate change is having knock-on effects in terms of increased heat transference throughout the planet. The intricacies of the patterning poignantly represent both the beauty of a complex Earth system, as well as our political and social failure. Lisa Ortagina and Joshua Portway's Most Blue Skies attempts to answer the child's question: where is the bluest sky in the world? And it's a painstakingly laborious pursuit for an answer. Fed by live global atmospheric data, the installation calculates the passage of light through particulate matter in the atmosphere and computes sky colours for 5 million places on Earth while displaying ongoing calculations and a global map of sky colours. Minute by minute, as the Earth rotates and weather systems change, the location of the most blue sky is displayed, while a specially developed lighting system reproduces the colour of the current blue sky in real time in the gallery. I'll focus now more on some arts catalyst projects that illustrate other key principles in the Biosphere Code. In particular, algorithmic systems should be flexible, adaptive, context-aware, and open. The Arctic Perspective Initiative is a project that I was involved in setting up and primarily involved in between 2007 and 2011. API, as I'll dub it for short, is a non-profit international group of individuals that was initiated and led by the artists Marco Pelhan and Matthew Biederman. But the goal of API is to create access to open source technologies and to promote the creation of shared communications and environmental monitoring networks without costly overheads. Through this, it aims to contribute to the continued sustainable development of autonomous culture, traditional knowledge, and citizen environmental monitoring for people in the north, particularly in Arctic Canada, who are facing the frontline impact of climate change. The project uses art as a collaborative socio-political intervention, presenting its collaborative findings and its technological developments in an art context through exhibitions in contemporary art venues, which have taken place all over the world. This one was in Dortmund, Germany, and a series of publications. Various methods were chosen to bring together Inuit knowledges with that of media artists and other experts. Field exchange trips were one method. On field exchange trips, the artists took part in expeditions with their Inuit collaborators where they conducted experiments including UAV mapping, remote sensing, environmental monitoring, and live streaming. We also held an international design and architecture competition to design a mobile research and living unit which would be suitable for use by Inuit media workers and researchers living and hunting away from permanent settlement. API co-produces knowledge about the environment via technological systems that are co-designed with Inuit media workers and with Inuit citizen scientists for use in the Arctic today. The Adaptable Community Environmental Wildlife Assessment Mesh Network, for example, is a sensor network designed for environmental monitoring, which includes the capability for geolocation, light levels, temperature, pressure, humidity, wind speed, and direction. That's open source and customizable to suit the needs of the community, the individual hunter, or the researcher. So an example of how this might be used is that a hunter would check out a mobile node or a media worker and then head out on the land to hunt for seals or to make a film about the impact of climate change. As they journey, a set of environmental measurements is automatically logged, and on their return, the node automatically ups its data to a central server. And the data aggregates, building a database of land use and measurements of microclimates along the way. And by this form of citizen sensing, the community owns its own science, allowing for more immediate, sustainable, useful monitoring of their local environment and the potential for responsive, self-driven applications. Participating in API gave me a rather different perspective on the potential for the work of artists and curators as catalysts in creating framework conditions for collaborative projects between artists, scientists, technologists, and people living in communities impacted by climate change. People's situated or traditional knowledges and skills are highly valuable for understanding the changes we're facing in these environments, but they're really rarely given voice within or indeed directly benefit from the institutional systems of climate and environmental change knowledge production. So API was too remote for me. Really, I wanted to try and use my learning from API to start projects in the UK, closer to home, where environmental change may not be as extreme, but it's certainly growing and impacting on communities. With Graham Harwood of Yoha and Steve Kurtz of Critical Art Ensemble, I initiated a project called RECT on the intertidal zone to focus on the changing ecology and social fabric of the Thames estuary around Leigh-on-Sea and Southend. I invited in another artist, Andy Freeman, a local artist with interest in citizen science tools, and the project was developed in partnership with communities of Leigh-on-Sea and Southend. The Thames estuary is an internationally important biodiverse habitat for fish, mollusks and wildfowl, including many migratory birds. Traditional marine-based industries, fishing, poaching and so on, for centuries have provided employment for the estuary's communities, but this heritage is rapidly declining. Building on this tradition of the Thames estuary being used as the energy source and the plumbing for London, new schemes for the area have been devised by the government and multinational corporations like Dubai International, including major infrastructural developments such as the London Gateway Deepwater Supercontainership Port. Hundreds of thousands of containers move up the flood tide in vast ships, burning cheap fuel and causing increased asthma rates as they go. This rapidly changing situation and intense economic interest in the area was of concern to local communities, who felt that while they might benefit from the infrastructures and extra employment opportunities, really felt they'd had absolutely no say in what was happening. So many of our early consultations with local people focused on their concerns about the impact of the London Gateway Port, particularly the massive dredging activity on fish stocks, cockle beds and ecological diversity in the estuary, as well as the continued changes and losses to local culture and traditional livelihoods. Over 2 summers, we organised many creative activities focused on local culture, ecology, food and traditional recipes, and the changes that were taking place in relation to traditional industries and the food we eat, opening discussions around the relationships between ecology, economies, infrastructures and health. Our citizen science workshops were held right the way through the summers to gather and map information of the toxicity of soil and water in a local former landfill site, which has been turned into a popular recreational area and nature reserve, as well as monitoring air quality as new regulations came in for fuel emissions from shipping. And we also gathered information from fishermen, from divers, from local ecologists and birdwatchers about the changes they were seeing in the environment. As we went along, we collected stories and examples of species from wildlife, marine creatures, livelihoods, fishing methods, landmarks and dialects that once flourished in the estuary and are now disappearing, which led to the creation of the Graveyard of Lost Species, which is a temporary monument created from a lost species in itself, a 12-ton wrecked Thames Gawley fishing boat that we rescued from the mudflats, cleaned up and engraved the names of the lost species on its hull and its decks and interiors, and then reinstalled on Lee Marshes. Using a range of artistic and citizen sensing techniques, the project gathered information and modelled the Thames estuary in a way that centred on local people and their values, providing an alternative archive of knowledge to that of the data gathering and modelling systems driven by industry and government that seek to shape the estuary for purposes that are not driven by the people who live there. And these were presented both within the art world and within the community as a series of films, an exhibition, an online resource, and an eco-political recipe book. In doing so, it gained enormous commitment and a sense of ownership from the local community. So API and RECT on the intertidal zone represent a set of approaches that I now want to take forward with Arts Catalyst and develop into a more consistent and articulated model and set of methods. The major challenges facing us today intertwine environmental, social, political and psychological factors. Challenges such as flooding, species loss, air and water pollution, plastics in the environment, complex health issues like diabetes, obesity, cancer, all intertwine large-scale global forces with the small-scale and the personal. And in addressing these challenges, no matter how good our tools and our technologies and our disciplinary expertise, we need to involve those whose lives are directly affected by these changes, not just make assumptions about the causes, the impact, and what might be the best pathways to resilience. And yet today, and I come back to systems here, we see the ongoing disenfranchisement of people from the management and the environments and the infrastructures within which they live, often due to the changes in how infrastructures are managed in today's high-speed network globalized world, often remotely centralized large-scale public-private partnerships focused on efficiencies of costs and towards profit. Within this, where is the opportunity for citizens to be stewards of their own environments, and the ownership and governance structures of key support systems of life, our air, our water, our green spaces, food production and distribution and so forth, have been taken out of our hands. So Test Science is our new series of inquiries into matters of concern relating to socio-environmental issues. Our aim is to involve communities in different parts of the UK in co-inquiries into their local environment, their role in its stewardship, and their relationship with their own health and well-being. Our aim is to articulate and disseminate a new model of art-led co-inquiry that facilitates community engagement and self-direction in research, in solution-seeking and shared learning. It's a mode of collective working that creates frameworks for cooperative inquiry that draws in different skills, expertise and disciplinary perspectives in what Isabel Stenders may term an ecology of practices. So we're working in 3 sites. We're in the Calder Valley in Yorkshire, where we're inquiring into the relationships that people have with the water systems, the river, the canal, the domestic water system, in relation to their health and well-being and the resilience of those communities and ecologies. In Poole Harbour in Dorset, we're examining the tensions and impact of a complex system of overlapping and competing economies, such as tourism and oil extraction. And in King's Cross, London, where we're based, we're thinking about the city as a body and investigating toxicity and the common ailments of communities and individuals. Toxicity not only implying air pollution, but also development pressures, austerity, and our Prime Minister's proclaimed hostile environment for migrants. So the term planetary commons has been variously used to describe the natural resources of the planet, and particularly the common pool resources that are not contained within one state, such as air or biodiversity, as well as the species that are found within, as well as the spaces within which these resources are found, such as the oceans, the atmosphere, the polar regions, outer space, the Earth's crust, and so forth. When I use the term planetary commons rather than global commons, my intention is to acknowledge a planetary turn in the arts and humanities and to direct the emphasis of inquiry away from governance with its systems of regulation towards stewardship, which is the notion of responsible use and protection. It's evident that when failing to manage our planetary commons, the resources and domains that sustain us as a multi-species community of life on the planet, and that our existing legal and regulatory systems appear inadequate to address the environmental and social challenges that face us. In my research and practice as a curator, I've introduced and been developing the concept of planetary commoning practices, suggesting a focus on practices of commoning that operate at multiple scales, from the planetary to that of locality or place. There's an important relationship between the planetary commons and the knowledge commons. When the spaces and the natural resources of the global commons are not presented as the commons, the message is that the public is not involved, that solutions do not lie within our grasp, that someone in government or industry will hopefully solve the problem, and at the same time, too often policymakers are not even aware that a common solution is a viable option. So I believe that these solutions are found on the ground through collective action and begin to reveal themselves through the collective sharing of local and scientific knowledge. Algorithmic systems on many scales and levels of complexity have the great power to benefit humanity. Artistic use of algorithms can help to reveal and help to make people aware of invisible underlying processes. But in partnership with a range of knowledges and expertise, including science and situated knowledge, art can contribute to technologies and systems that, rather than locking people into particular systems, are decentralized, egalitarian and liberating, and that enable users to adapt them to fit their own purposes, resources, knowledges and cultures. Thank you.